A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to our Salaat program, which we are discussing how to pray a good prayer. I have with us our guest, Sakina Fatima. I have Noor Fatima.
Salam.
And I have Tahreen Fatima. So, just to recap what we discussed yesterday, could I ask Sakina Fatima to explain?
We learn about how to encourage other people who don't pray to pray, and that is to first fix your own prayer, make yourself a good example, make yourself seem happy for the others to follow on.
Thank you. And if you can pass it to Fatima.
We also learned that some mentors can actually help you in your in your problems and solve them.
So give an example.
So we had an example last week about an engineer who was in debt and couldn't really afford much, and his problem was that his sister, his dad died, and he had to share his fair share with his sister.
The inheritance, yeah?
Yeah, and he didn't do that, so his sister was sad, and then he gave 5,000 Taman to his sister, but that wasn't enough. He also needed to give her a house.
You've understood, yes. So as we discussed, dear brothers and sisters, we touched on 3 points. One is prayer is the axis of all other worships. Do you remember that, kids? And also then we discussed how a mentor can help us in our life. And then the author was trying to lead us to some point. We didn't really finish that part, so we will continue this. And what else did we touch on, kids? Do you remember? There were 3 points. Yes, and a way to encourage how other people should pray. So to encourage other people to become Muslim, first of all, we need to start being proper Muslims ourselves. So Noor, you weren't here the last program that we did, just to recap for you as well. The 3 points that we discussed, and these 3 points I just shared. The most important out of them was do not preach someone if you're not practicing yourself. Yes? So don't tell them to become a Muslim or come into the fold of Islam if you yourself are not fully 100% into it. Okay? The reason is because you're a half a Muslim yourself, and then you're bringing someone else to become a half a Muslim, and that's a recipe for disaster. And then we gave an example on this in the previous program. Okay, could I ask Noor if you could start the reading of the book, and then we will discuss it as well.
Yeah. How good it is for a person to have a mentor who can detect his pains and say, you have to do that certain action for your problem to be solved. One of the students of that same great mystic said, my small child had done something wrong at home, and his mother hit him so badly that he could hardly breathe. After an hour, my wife came down with a fever. It was a high fever for which we went to a doctor and spent a lot of money for the prescription and medicine. Not only her fever didn't come down, it increased too. We went to a doctor again and spent a lot of money to treat her, which was too much for me in the economic situation at that time. That night, I picked up a sheikh, the same great mystic, with my car to take him somewhere. My wife was in the car too. When Sheikh got in the car, I pointed toward my wife and said, she is the mother of my children. She has a fever. We have gone to a doctor, but her fever doesn't come down. He contemplated a little and told my wife, no one should hit a child like that. Ask God's forgiveness. Soothe your child and buy something for him. You will get better. We did this and my wife got better.
Can I stop here? Thank you, Noor. So, another example. This is an example of a family. The previous example was of a businessman. Now this is an example of a family, a mother and a father and a child. So a mother hits her child very badly, in a very not in a very extreme way, and the child stops to breathe. And because of that pain that the child had, the mother suffered. She had a very severe fever that wasn't coming down even after giving medication and going to the doctor. So this person, the husband, was lucky to be connected to a mentor like a sheikh, a mystic, who knew the root of the problem and explained, because of this, you are in this problem. So there's a lot of meanings behind this. So every action of ours has a consequence. Sometimes we do actions deliberately, sometimes we do it without our control. For example, I am a victim of an action I did with one of my children, and which I will see how I will have to face. So anyway, coming back to our topic, and where we stand here is that every action, be it a good action or a bad action, it has not just consequence here, but also in the hereafter as well. So, as we discussed in our previous program, Sukaina, you'll remember, and Tahreen, you will remember as well, Fatma, that if you do a bad action, it gives a bad result. And if you do a good action, it gives a positive result. In this world and in the hereafter as well. Straight away when you enter Barzakh, and if you haven't fixed that action of yours and corrected it, then you will face it in some form. So whatever we do here, we're making our Barzakh over there. At this very moment, we are in our Barzakh. So whatever we do, we're making a land, we're making a ground, we're making trees, we're making whatever it is that we're making our space for Barzakh. It starts from the day we come in this world. Does that make sense? Okay, continue reading. I could ask Sukaina if you could read now.
How good is it for a person to have a mentor?
Slowly and loudly, please.
How good is it for a person to have a mentor? Sometimes a mentor guides a person very well. A mentor not only guides, he also helps a person to resolve his problems. Perhaps you have heard many stories about people who were in pursuit of spiritual wayfaring
yes.
toward God. And if they found a good mentor, how that mentor helped in different stages and helped them in surmounting the obstacles. There are many examples in the accounts from
Allama
Tabatabai.
I'll help you with this because it's a bit hard to pronounce.
Ayatullah Uzma Bahjat.
And about the mentor.
Ayatullah
Sayyid
Ali Qadi. Or in their accounts of people who were in contact with Ayatollah Bahauddini.
Okay, could I ask Noor if you could read?
You would probably like to have a mentor too, and you ask God, "Oh God, show us a good teacher and a good mentor for coming closer to you." Now, if I introduce a mentor to you, will you accept it? If you accept it, I will immediately introduce you a good mentor. Prayer.
Yes. So, did you understand? Wouldn't you all want to have a mentor that can get you out of these tricky situations where you get stuck? But not all of us have that kind of luxury where we have some kind of mentor always there guiding us, telling us from all these pitfalls that we have in our life. But Allah has given us something, which is prayer. Prayer is actually our mentor. Now you will have a question is, how can prayer be a mentor? We just stand up, then we go in ruku, then we go in sajda. How is that a mentor for us? How can it be a mentor when we're just doing these physical actions and we're just reciting some words? Physically, what you're doing is you're standing at one point towards Khane Kaaba, that's the direction, that's the Qibla, and you're just reciting some stuff. So how can that be a mentor? Is that a valid question or not?
Yeah.
Yeah? Is that a question? Do you have any questions on this?
Yeah.
So, I'll answer that, but I think the author answers himself. So we all are looking for a mentor. Then the author is saying, well, you have a mentor, which is a prayer. Now let's find out how this prayer is a mentor, and I'll explain more about this. So if I could ask Fatima if you could read.
Where are we at?
If you were paying attention, you would have known where we are at.
All of us have a mentor named prayer. Prayer is a mentor for taking a person to God. Prayer is alive, has reasons, movies.
Movies? What movie have you been watching that movies are coming out? Moves.
moved and active. It's
Is
clear-sighted.
clear-sighted.
Is clear-sighted and is aware. Okay.
Continue reading. Okay, I think Fatma's giggling. Could I ask Noor if you could read, please? Okay, continue reading.
Prayer is not a personal habit or a public ceremony. Prayer is not dead, spiritless activity that doesn't have any use for us.
Okay.
The prayer of each person works for him in accordance with him.
Okay, could I ask you to stop here, Noor? So, a few words the author said, and I'm just going to repeat that. Prayer is alive. So don't just see what you're doing, this action that you do when you come for prayer, standing up, ruku and sujood. These are just some actions that you do and some words you recite. But in another dimension, it exists. It's alive. So it doesn't exist physically in a form that you see here. But in the barzakh, in the hereafter, it's a living being. It's watching you. It's looking at you. It has feelings. It talks to you. But you can't hear because these ears are not made for hearing the barzakhi sound. Does that make sense? Okay, if it makes sense, explain me what I just said.
Prayer is alive and you can't hear it because it's in barzakh and we haven't been given ears to hear what's in barzakh.
Yes, you've said it quite Hassan, in a way. So prayer is alive. It has reason, so it can think. Just like how we think, it also thinks. So it's a conscious being. It's not something like a robot or just a physical thing that we're doing. No, it exists in the metaphysical world. And it moves, it is active, it can see, and is aware of its surrounding. It's aware of you, it's aware of what it has to do. So prayer, I will read the next part. Prayer is not a personal habit. So don't think that every time in the morning, on the waqt of Fajr, the time of Fajr, then Zohr, Asr and Maghrib Isha, you're just going on this time. No, it's not a habit that you do. It's not a public ceremony. For example, when we go and read the Jamaat, for example, especially men, it's not that. Prayer is not a dead thing. It's alive. It exists. Just like we exist. We're human beings. We have life in us. It has also life in itself. So prayer is not a dead, spiritless activity that doesn't have any use for us. It's actually alive. It's aware of what you're doing. It knows you. And each prayer is personal to the person. So if Noor, could I ask you to read further and we'll understand what it's trying to say.
The prayer of each person works for him in accordance with him.
Yes. So each prayer for each individual works according to that person. So maybe you might have I'll give you an example. You might have a problem where you eat too much. Okay? Gluttony. You know the word? That's a sin as well. Eating too much or overeating. So this prayer will help you in reducing that bad habit. Or if someone is a smoker, smokes a lot of cigarettes, that's his weakness. That's a bad habit that's causing damage to his health. Do you have a question, Fatma? You were raising your hand.
I think smoking is bad.
Okay, right. So smoking, if someone has a bad habit and if they're in this situation, then prayer will help them in this issue. If you continue reading, the author will explain to us.
If I love holding a position, my prayer will eliminate this love for a position.
Okay, so some people are desperate about moving to a certain position. They're very ambitious. For example, in an office, someone wants to become a manager and they are very ruthless. They will, pull someone's leg down just to get to that position. So they will do it through hook and crook without any values or anything like this. So then the prayer will teach them that you can still get to that position, but with a certain boundary, that you need to understand you're a human being, you shouldn't hurt anyone else, and you'll get there if you deserve it. So some people, for example, they don't deserve to be a leader or a prime minister, or as you see in the world, at the moment, if you look at the Muslim worlds, every leader in that world is incompetent. They just want to be a leader, except for Iran, all other countries, their leaders, all Muslim other countries, their leaders are corrupt. All of them are. Because they're not capable of ruling the people. If they were able to rule, you wouldn't see the mess that they are in at this very moment. And that's the situation of the whole Muslim world. all the Muslims are under a curse because they were not able to select a proper leader. A leader makes a big difference of how the world is. And that's why if someone has this, oh, I want to be a leader, I want to be in this position, when they're not capable of having that position, then what happens is when they get to that position, they do injustice. They're not equal, they're not fair, because they're not capable for that job. Okay, continue reading.
If I love money, it will eliminate that love of money.
Yes, could I just stop you there? So, some people worship money. They think money is everything. Money buys everything. Money brings happiness. Money brings feelings. No, money is just a tool. But some people love money so much, they make it their God. So then this prayer will help this love of this money, which is to excess, come out and become normal. They come to realize, no, this money is just a tool. I have to use it for my living. I have to buy food. I have to buy a house. Money is a tool to be used. But there are people that hoard money. They keep hoarding money and they think this is the only thing that will keep them happy. But that's not true. These are addictions. You can think of them as addictions, which the shaitan puts us in traps. He wants us away from Allah. Then he uses these kind of things for us to not get close to the real source of where we get everything from, where we achieve, where we get all those blessings from. This is what he does. He brings these things as idols. For example, money, position, and things like this. If someone is very beautiful, they think no one is better than them, for example. They will just think they are the best. And they are beauty worshippers. They worship themselves. That's also wrong. So the prayer will help you in this. Continue reading, please.
If I love carnal desires, it will resolve my carnal desires.
Yeah, so for example, someone has carnal desires such as... sorry?
What's carnal desires?
Carnal desires are, for example, going after the flesh. Now, what does that mean? For example, eating too much. Desire for eating too much. Or desire for extreme things that are not normal, for example. Those people that understand carnal desires will understand this. I can't explain more. It will resolve these issues. So if someone has, I'll give you an example. You're all studying and you're going to high school or school and you've had education on certain topics. So those extreme type of behaviors, even that it will control them, it will bring you back into balance. Okay? Just like desire for eating, for example, desire for sleeping too much, excess sleeping, where you shouldn't be, or laziness. They're all under the category of carnal desires because it's coming from the body, from the flesh. Continue reading, please.
If I am arrogant, it will eliminate my arrogance.
So if someone's proud and arrogant, so Salaat will break that arrogance, will make that person humble, will make it humility, will give him that humility so that he can be a proper human being. The problem of this world is because of arrogance. It's because of being proud and haughty. Continue reading.
If I don't have love for God, it will bring love for God.
So none of us have true love for God. That's a fact. If we say, I love God, we're lying to ourselves. Because if we really did love God, then we would enjoy our prayers. When we don't enjoy our prayers, that means that we don't really love God. We're lying to ourselves. We have to be honest with ourselves that do we really love Allah? No, we don't. Sometimes some of us do love Allah, but that's because of the reasons why Allah has given us stuff. For example, the blessings that we have. So we're loving Allah because of materialism. And if you read Surah Adiyah in the Quran, you will see that Allah says that human beings have extreme love for wealth, more than Allah Himself. And that's why we love Allah, because of these materialistic things that we have. But there's a higher love. A true love is that you love Allah for being Him, who He is. Just like when you have friends, can I ask Noor, you have friends. Do you like your friends because of what they have? Or do you like your friends because you like them? They're your friends.
I guess I like them for what they do for me.
Okay.
If I'm being very honest.
Right. But when you became friends with them, was it for a greedy reason or because you could see that you can communicate with them? There's a chemistry there, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah?
If I
because
was happy
there's so many people, there's about 1,000 people, students in your school. You're not friends with everyone. So you only become friends with because you connect with them, not because they have something. True friends are those people that are actually friends for no other reason than friendship themselves, because they connect, they gel together. They are there to help one another, not for selfish reasons. That's what a true friend is. But then you have friends for benefits. Those are different. Why are you laughing?
Sounds like it's just there to use.
Yeah, well, you have that kind of things. And in this dunya, if you don't make friends for religion, then on the day of judgment, they won't be your friend.
The friends for religion.
Or if you don't make them for Allah, for example.
How do you make them for Allah?
Well, you look for a person who has good character. You know that person is there for you for good reasons. They don't need to be Muslim. They can also be non-Muslims, but they have good values. That they are a human being from the core. They might not know the truth at the moment, but maybe through you, they can learn the truth. So you have to show your ikhlaq, that how a Muslim is, how caring a Muslim is, how a Muslim behaves. And they will learn from that if they are good people. But if they have a dark soul, then it's a different story. Then they might even make your soul dark. So you need to be careful when you select your friends. Friends are things that you don't choose, you choose according to your nature. So if you have an evil nature, you become friends with an evil person. And that's temporary, because an evil person can never be a friend with another evil person because they're evil. Positive attracts positive. Okay, negative attracts negative. Can we continue?
The prayer of each person knows what to do with him to correct him. Does this mean that if we pray well, prayer will correct us? Yes. So, we don't need a mentor anymore, but there is a famous sentence which says, "Don't travel on this path without a mentor. It is dark. Be afraid of the dangers of being alone. If it is necessary for you, God will certainly send someone to help you."
So this is a very important point. So does that mean that if we're just praying we don't really need a mentor? No, it's not saying this. What it is saying is that the starting point is that you should pray. And that is your mentor for that time being. And when you will need a proper mentor, when you go further deep into religion and spirituality, where your religiousness is getting more deep and with depth, you're understanding Islam properly and you want to pursue it more, then Allah will send you a mentor who will help you. Can I ask Fatma if you could read? Some people. So if it is necessary for you, God will certainly send someone to help you.
Okay. Some people think that the mentor can take the place of the good and bad deeds of a person. However, it is not like this. You have heard in stories about the friends of God,
Awliya,
that how one of the immaculate Imams, alayhi salam, or one of the friends of God, like Ayatullah
or Ayatullah Bahawdini, I'll pronounce them for you because I know they're a bit hard, took someone's hand in a special way and crossed him over a spiritual obstacle on the path of his spiritual journey. Okay, so you have, if you want to have this spiritual journey where you want to get closer to Allah, of course you need someone to guide you. They will pinpoint your bad ethics and they will tell you how to fix them. But the basic foundation is that you need to have Salaat. If you don't have Salaat, they will not come to you. The foundation is Salaat. The book doesn't say this, but I'm telling you this now. Can I ask Noor if you could continue reading, please? Did you understand that, Fatma? What did you understand? If you pass the microphone.
You don't always need. So no, in what happened to the paragraph?
Yes, what did you understand?
In the paragraph, it was saying that a mentor can't always remove your bad deeds. You still have them with you, so you have to remove them yourself.
Maybe Noor, if you can explain that more better.
I'm not saying that.
I think this paragraph was basically saying that you do need help, besides prayer itself. You did mention that prayer is the foundation, But after establishing that foundation, you can have help from other mentors, and they give examples such as Ayatullah, Qadi, and etc.
Yes. Okay, continue reading and we'll understand this more.
Do not think that whoever went to that friend of God received special help from him. Certainly, that person who received special help had a good background. Due to that background, the friend of God distinguished that this person deserves this help. For example, consider the story of the engineer who went to the mystic, and the mystic showed his problem. This was based upon divine destiny, which is according to the good points of a person himself. Otherwise, if I do not deserve to hear those special instructions, even if I am the neighbor of that great mystic, there won't be this special help for me.
Okay, so did you understand that? So we discussed about the engineer who had to help his sister to come out of that bad credit. So he was deserving this help, so that's why the mystic helped him. Okay, he might have had a good background, so he was a good person. Maybe he gave charity, he was kind and all this, so the mystic saw he deserves this help, so I can help him. But you can also be a neighbor of a mystic. The mystic will not help that person because he's probably not deserving it. So it's not about how close you're to the mystic, it's about how your good character is or what you're doing if you deserve it. And this is decided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not by us, not by the mystic, but by our own actions. So if we do good actions, then they help us get to a right person. But if we do bad actions, then we go towards bad direction. There are two paths that Allah's made. One path is the right path, is the guidance, path of guidance, and the other path is a path of misguidance. So there's no other path other than these two paths. It's up to you which one you select. If you select the path of guidance, that means Allah will send you prophets, awliya khuda, people that can help you, a good Samaritan, they will come on your path. But if you take the path of misguidance, then shaitan is there, the followers of shaitan are there, and they will drag you more and more towards misguidance, away from Allah. So there's a path towards Allah, and there's a path away from Allah. These are the two paths that any human being can follow. There's no other path. So in this world, these are the two routes that you have. There's no other route. Either the route is towards hell, or the route is towards heaven. These are the two routes. And there's no middle ground there. The middle ground is you're either burning and in both ways. That's just an example I'm giving. Continue reading, please. If I could ask Zakira if you could read now, please. If you could read now, please.
For example, Unwan Parsi went to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam and said, "Oh Imam, I want to learn something." The Imam responded, "You may go. I don't have time to talk to you." At another time, a person was sitting quietly next to the Imam without this person asking anything from the Imam. He spoke with him and told him that his death was near. We must fix our internal being. If a mentor is needed, God will show him to that person.
So you saw in this example how a person approached Imam to get guidance, but Imam said to him, "I haven't got time for you. I don't have time for you." But then there was another person who didn't even go to the Imam, who was just in the corner praying or something, and the Imam went to him. So this is all governed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who gets guidance, who doesn't get guidance. So there's a in the Quran, Allah says to Rasulullah, because Rasul is very sad that some people are not becoming Muslims, he's very worried about their welfare, their affairs, what will happen to them at the end. Then Allah says, look, you will die by grief for them, but some of them don't want to change. When they don't want to change, you can't force it on them. And this is the message here. Everyone chooses their own path. Even Allah does not force someone to become a Muslim. We all have to decide ourselves. This is one of the gifts that Allah has given us, choice. The choice to choose. Okay? Continue reading. Can I ask Noor if you could read, please?
Well, yeah, we must fix an internal being.
So at another time, if you could read.
Yes.
If a mentor is needed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We must fix our internal being. If a mentor is needed, God will show him to that person. For the beginning of the way, the general awareness that most of you have is enough. The commander of the faithful, Ali alayhi salam, said, "What you need more is to act on what you know than to know what you don't know. We have more of a need to do what we know rather than knowing new things." People used to go to Ayatullah Bahjat frequently and ask him, "What should we do to understand mysticism and approach God?" He would respond, "If you act according to what you know and you do not trample beneath your feet what you know, this is all of mysticism."
Okay, so a very important point here.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
You didn't understand. Okay, for example, you know that you should be praying. So but you say, no, I want to do that as well, another deed. Why do you want to do that action when you're not doing the first action? So what he's trying to say here is that if you know that you shouldn't be lying, you know this is a knowledge that you have, but you're not practicing it, then you can't get to the next level, because people want to get to this high level where they can see what's inside, they can see barzakh and all of these things. But no, you start with what you know and you build on that. Did you understand that, or is it still confusing? So you act on what you know. For example, if you know you should be eating healthy food to become stronger, but you're eating bad food, then and you're expecting to become very strong, no, that's not possible. So you do what you know, and then once you've done that, that is strong, then you start moving on. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Or a person asked this question: does a person need to have a mentor to move toward God? If there isn't a mentor, what is the remedy? He wrote, "In the name of God, your mentor is your knowledge."
So yes. So your first mentor, even before Salaat, is what knowledge you have, your intellect. That is your mentor. It will teach you what is right, what is wrong. To whatever limited knowledge that you have, it will be your guide. And if you go against your knowledge, your intellect, that's what you're doing wrong. So why do people sometimes go against their intellect? What could be the reasons where you know this is the right thing to do, but you don't do it? You do the opposite. What could be the reason? You want to answer?
Because like you're not bothered.
Or like
Okay, yeah, go on, continue.
if you're like not bothered to do it, or like nah, or like you think the other option's easier to do.
Okay, so the root cause was laziness, yes? So your lethargy in your body was telling you, let's just do a shortcut. I don't want to go through the right way. The right way was a bit long and it would take a lot more effort. So we looked for a shortcut. But then that shortcut was the wrong way, and it causes more problem. Does that make sense? Yeah? So this is the reason. So your intellect told you, no, this is the right way, I should go through this. But then you said, oh, but your internal body was not ready for it. So what you had to do is first tell yourself that, look, come out of this laziness, get the energy, get the motivation, and then move. But you weren't that motivated and you were feeling lazy, and then you went through the shortcut, which was not the right way. This is an example. And could I ask Noor if you could read, please? Act according.
Act according. No, I think it's you will be helped sufficient. Oh yeah, act according to what you know. You will be helped sufficiently for what you don't know. In another case, he said, "If we realize that a person's affairs will be amended based on him amending his worship acts, and at the top of them is praying, everything is done. This is gained through humility and humbleness, and these are gained by avoiding that which is vain." How do you think our elders and the mystics reached high levels? With prayer. Going towards God is not reserved for just the scholars and mystics.
Okay, can I stop here? So yes, we all have a responsibility to get close to God. So it's not a responsibility, for example, just a scholar or someone who's a prophet. No. Just because the prophet is very close to Allah doesn't mean that now we can't get close to Allah. No. As much as he is the Allah of the prophet, he is also the same Allah for yourselves. Does that make sense? So you can't say, oh, no, I can't reach the level of the prophet. No. That path is open for everyone. So, okay, we might be somewhere far away and the Prophet is so close to Allah, but that shouldn't stop us from taking that journey, because we all want to go towards perfection. Yes? We all want to have good things, don't we? We learn this from this world. So this materialistic world teaches us how to get to Allah. It's through this world that we get to Allah, by understanding what does it mean by rich, what does it mean by poor, what is good, what is bad, what is nice, what is unfair. All these things teach us, and then we make decisions of how to get to Allah. For example, position. When we look at high position, we understand who's the highest position? Allah. We learn this in this world, what position means. And then we understand, no, Allah has the highest position. So we want to get to Allah. So whoever gets closer to Allah has a higher position. Yes? Someone wants to be wealthy. Okay, who has everything?
Allah.
Allah. So that's where we want to go. But we learn this. How do we learn this? By wealth. What is wealth? We need to know what wealth is. We need to understand what poor is, what rich is. And then we understand. So everything Allah has, Allah can make me rich, for example. If you see someone very beautiful and you get attracted to that person, then you realize that the real beauty is with who? The person who made him. That's Allah. Then you go towards Allah for that. Yeah? Everything, the source of everything is Allah. So for example, whatever we are as we are is actually Allah's reflection. Because whatever you see is Allah. Now this gets into philosophy, you might be confused. Okay? It will get a bit too much deep. So what I'm trying to say is that whatever you see in this world that is beautiful and nice, you want to go towards it, the source of that beauty is Allah Himself. The source of that perfection that you like is Allah Himself. And that's where we want to go. So this journey is long, but the problem in this world is that we forget Allah and we get stuck with that object. For example, if you look at this mobile, yeah? Now, I like this mobile, for example, and I just constantly, I'm on this mobile 24 hours. So I forgot that someone made this mobile for a purpose, not to be addicted to this mobile, or something else. So these are the things that we need to be careful about. Not to get attached to something so much that we forget that the real perfection is not this mobile or anything else or any other asset. Some people love their cars. They love their cars so much that they are so worried that not even a scratch comes on it. They keep polishing it, they're shining it, they're taking it to the car wash, and they're spending their time just keeping it nice and clean and not doing anything else. So they just love the car. Well, when they should have realized this is just a materialistic thing, is used just to drive from one place to another place. And yeah, of course you should love the things that Allah's given you, but that's extreme love. There's no more a normal love. It's an attachment that is true attachment that you should not have. Then that causes you not to get close to Allah Himself.
Can I ask a question?
Yes?
So you said that the things in this world, like the perfections, beauty, nature, you said it like all represents, or the cause of it is God. What about the imperfections?
There's nothing imperfect in this world. A very good question. For example, look, if we look at Shaitan, Iblis, he's a person that we all hate. But as a creation, do you think as a creation, if you look at that creation, do you think it's ugly? For example, a lion. I'll make it easier for you. When you look at a lion, and if you ask a sheep, what do you think of the lion? They say, oh, I'm scared of it. It eats me. It's my enemy. But you from the outside, when you look at the sheep and the lion, do you say, no, the lion is bad and the sheep is good, or the sheep is good and the lion is bad, or the lion is good and the sheep? No. You look at them from a perspective, both are beautiful creatures. Yes or no? And you don't see their flaws. You see, okay, the lion does this, the sheep does this. One's a predator, one's a prey. But you're not judging them, are you, as good or bad? They're both beautiful, aren't they? Yes or no? In their own ways. Just like that. So anything and everything that you see is beautiful. It serves a purpose. Does that make sense? Yeah? I'll give you an example of Prophet Moses. So Hazrat Musa, as you understand, he's the only prophet that was able to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in one of those discourses that he had with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah asked him, Musa, go around the world and bring something that has no value. Has no value. So Hazrat Musa said, he went back down from the mountain and he went around the city and the place he was inhabiting. He looked at one thing, then the other thing, then the other thing, and he came back empty-handed. So Allah asks, Musa, you came back empty-handed. I asked you to bring something that was of no value. He said, I went around and I didn't find anything like that. So then Allah reminds him, Musa, do you remember you were about to pick up a bone of a dead dog, rotting dog, and you wanted to bring that. If you had brought that rotting bone to my presence, I would have taken the prophethood, nabuwat, from you. Why? Because even that dog, that bone, is a creation of Allah. For us it might be disgusting because it's smelling, it's rotting and it's decaying for our physical body, but that bone is a creation of Allah and it serves a purpose. Everything that you see in this world serves a purpose. Nothing has been made in vain. Everything is connected. For example, this table, the ground. So that rotting dog that was decaying, the bone was decaying, it serves a purpose. It was becoming mud again. It was becoming clay again. It was becoming cleansed again. That's the process of it. Okay? So everything is made by Allah's hikmat, by Allah's wisdom. Everything serves a purpose. And that's why Hazrat Musa understood that. He said, how can I bring that bone? Because that bone was once functional. It served that dog. And dogs, even though a dog is a najis animal in Islam, but it still serves a purpose. It's not just for us, but not for Allah. Does that make sense? Because He's a creator. For Him everything is beautiful. Whatever Allah's made is beautiful. And that's how we should see the world. We should not see it from our limited eyes that Allah's given us. Oh, that's good, that's bad. And that's what this world does. This world wants you to see from the worldly eyes, not from the divine eyes, Allah's eyes. When you see from Allah's eyes, you see everything fair. You see that there's a creator who's made these things, who loves it, who cherishes it, who honors it. Why? Because He's the creator of it. And that's why it's very bad to say to someone, oh, you're ugly, oh, you're this, you're disrespecting people, because we're all Allah's creation. Even this table that you might think is not valuable, but it is valuable because it belongs to Allah. Everything belongs to Allah. We're not the owners of anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, we can carry on reading. I think we're out of time as well. We'll end it here. So we'll just summarize. We discussed about what a mentor is and how it's good to have a mentor. We also discussed, so could I ask you children, could you summarize for me? What have you understood so far?
Anybody to go first? Or?
If you go first, Noor, and then we'll pass it to...
First, we talked about how prayer is a physical thing, that it's alive.
Very good, yeah.
Then we talked about mentors and how that we don't, that prayer is our mentor, but we also need other mentors.
Yes.
So we don't need to only rely on one thing. Then we talked about how knowledge is the first
Okay.
thing
Can you
that
pass
we
it to
want.
the others as well? So Fatma, you've been giggling in this program.
It's because
It hasn't been
mentioned all the
helpful for
stuff.
the viewers, you know, because they're taking this program very seriously.
She hasn't. I mean, she'd mentioned like all of the stuff that we did.
Okay, so what have you? Can you summarize in your words?
Oh, so first we spoke about. I mean, you spoke about two paths that we have. Paths that look. One is hell,
Yes.
one is heaven,
Mhm.
and then he spoke about mentors and how mentors like. I don't know how to put it in words.
Okay, thank you. Pass it to Sakina.
We spoke about mentors and how if you go to a mentor but it's not your time, they won't accept it, and Allah chooses if you should get a mentor or not.
Okay. So we've been revolving around just mentors, but there's a lot more we discussed. But anyway, thank you so much, kids, for attending this program, giving your time. I know you all have important responsibilities to do, but this is helping other people as well, because prayer is the most important thing. If you want to succeed in anything that you want to do, you have to talk about prayer. And as I said, as we just discussed, it's a living being. So you discussing this and talking about this, do you think this isn't prayer going to be happy with you? Don't you think it's going to help you? in whatever task and things that you have. I understand, Noor, you have exams coming up. So inshallah, it will help you in your exams because you've discussed about it. You're asking other people, you're teaching other people, you're showing them how prayer is important. So this program is very important in this sense. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Inshallah, again, tomorrow, same time, in this month of Ramadan, we'll continue this book and its discourses. Khuda Hafiz. Goodbye.